this nation for 236 years. The Army also carries with it the marks of its beginning. The traits, values, and ethos that you see today began on 1975. The defeat of the British at Yorktown brought the nation not only a great victory, but even more challenges as our young nation grew. Lewis and Clark's expedition into the Louisiana Purchase in 1803, and war with Mexico in 1847. The ongoing debate over states' rights and slavery divided the country, and the brother faced off against brother in a bitter 4-year civil war. Peace came on a spring day at Appomattox, Virginia, when the two armies met to end the fighting and begin binding up the nation's wounds. This new birth of freedom would usher in the industrial age and spur on the western settlement. The cavalry boots of the Buffalo Soldier would walk the picket lines on lonely outposts of the American West. They built roads, strung wire, mapped the land, and provided security for the onrushing settlers. As the new century began, Army boots had left American shores. We went to France to fight in the war to end all wars. The world knew that America and our Army would go to the aid of others in the cause of freedom. Unfortunately, it was not the war to end all wars, as economic depression spread around the world. Then, on December 7, 1941, Japan attacked Pearl Harbor. A day that will live in infamy. The full resources of this nation responded, and the boots of 16 million men and women went on the ground around the world. The strength of our Army would bring an end to the largest war in the history of the world. America was also embracing civil rights. Women became active duty components of the services. African-American fighter pilots, known as the Tuskegee Airmen, and the 442nd Regimental Combat Team, comprised of Japanese Americans, added many valorous pages to our military history. The world entered into the nuclear age, as man created weapons of mass destruction. The world became polarized between the forces of democracy and the menace of communism. The first test came in a faraway land. The Army, as part of a United Nations fighting force, put its boots on the snowy hills of Korea. Heartbreak Ridge, Pork Chop Hill, and Chosin Reservoir became familiar names. The Korean War ended after 3 years of hard and intense combat. To this day, American soldiers still stand on those hills, guarding in the name of freedom. In Vietnam, another call came. The Army went into those steaming jungles for our nation's freedom. The NCOs and soldiers who served in Vietnam did so with distinction and honor. Many lessons were learned from the countless hardships and sacrifices of our soldiers. Vietnam veterans directed their experience into rebuilding our Army into what it is today. The end of the draft marked a significant period of change in our Army. We shifted from a conscripted force to an all-volunteer force. Our non-commissioned officers vowed no one is more professional than I. This volunteer Army answered our nation's calls again in Grenada and Panama, rescuing thousands from the fist of brutality. The fall of the Berlin Wall marked our victory in the Cold War. New threats emerged in both the Middle East and Europe. In Desert Storm, our Army needed only 100 hours to liberate Kuwait from the occupying Iraqi forces of Saddam Hussein. In Europe, the Army intervened in Bosnia and Kosovo to protect innocents caught in the violence following the fracture of Yugoslavia. On September 11, 2001, war came to America as Al-Qaeda terrorists attacked the World Trade Center and the Pentagon. Along with the first responders, your Army reacted quickly to help save lives. Following these cowardly attacks, your Army took the fight to the enemy, toppling a dictator in Iraq, and effectively transferring the rule of law back to the Iraqi government under Operation New Dawn. The Army is currently engaging the Taliban regime in order to disrupt terrorist strongholds throughout Afghanistan. Even now, our Army continues to defeat these threats during our time of persistent conflict in Southwest Asia, the Pacific Theater, and the Horn of Africa. Our Army remains at the point of the spear, keeping America and our freedoms safe for this generation and beyond. Ladies and gentlemen, the strength of our nation has been called on once again. All units of our Army are in the lead in this new way of warfare. With your support, we will keep for you life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.